Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is Tony Harvin, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Do remember, if you'd like to subscribe to this channel, hit that subscribe button and also hit the notification bell right here and select all to receive all notifications upon the videos that come out on this channel. Also, my backup channel is Tony Harvin Network if you'd like to do the same. Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is Tony Harvin, and welcome to my YouTube channel. We here having an interview with a victim by the name of Jacquelyne Prather. I remember doing a story about last year on a so-called preacher by the name of Leroy Lane. And do remember, we are streaming live from two YouTube channels: my secondary YouTube channel, Tony Harvin Network, and my primary YouTube channel, this one. So if you happen to see people commenting in the chat room and you don't see it in one, that's because you cannot see the other chat room, but I can see both of them. So I greet everybody upon this evening in the chat room, and those who are tuning in, you will have the opportunity to ask questions. Please be respectful, otherwise you will be deleted and blocked. So we're going to have Jacquelyne Prather to give her side in general. So please start off with an introduction, Miss Jacquelyne Prather.
Hello, everybody. So as stated, my name is Jacquelyne Prather. I am one of Leroy Lane's victims for sexual assault. Um, I just want to take this time out to speak out and let other victims know that are out there, or other women in general that are dealing with this. Even there are some men also, as well, that it's okay to speak out. I know, like, that process of everything will be hard, but I'm here to answer any questions, also to just be there and enlighten everyone on the situation.
Cool. So start from the beginning, your upbringing, where you was from, born and raised, and things like that in general.
So I was actually born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then I moved to Texas with my grandparents, and then my mom got married, and that's what brought us to Leroy's ministry in Michigan.
And this is and what is that? Benton Harbor, Michigan, correct?
Yes.
And what year did you start to attend the church that I guess preach at?
Ooh, I want to say it was like 2001 or 2.
Mm.
2002, I believe that's when we moved there.
Cool. So when the story came out last year, and like I said, in general, people know that I do stories on these so-called preachers who get arrested, convicted, and sentenced and things like that. Because me personally, it's a good thing that they're being caught, but it's a sad thing in reference to the victims out there. You know what I mean? Because I don't think anybody should be in that position and manipulate the whole situation
Hmm.
to do something like that to people in general. So it's a good thing that people like you have the courage to speak out to put people on notice about creeps like this person. All right. So what was your first encounter? You know what I mean, in general, as far as like even like conversation or any type of interaction with this what's his name again? Leroy Lane. Yeah, him.
Yeah. So actually, the first encounter was when I was 15. I spoke up about a Spanish teacher touching me when I was in 8th grade, and he was my science teacher as well at the same school. And I told my mother what happened, and from the culture of how we were brought up within the church, it was like everything you do, say, goes through him. So my mother took me to him, and I told him what happened, and it was more so, well, this can mess up this man's reputation if you did this, that, and the other. Mind you, I was only 15, so then, like, my father, he was in the picture, but he wasn't in Michigan with us, so I didn't have any father figure around at the time. And it was just like, okay, I don't know who to talk to about what just happened, but I did immediately tell my mom, and it went from there. And then, like, me and my mom had got into like an incident to where I walked to the pastor's house. I was still 15, and the incident that happened, we were talking in the basement of his house. It was him and his wife as well, and his wife had went upstairs, and he had proceeded to tell me, he was like, the Bible says to greet, with a holy kiss. And that was after he had kissed me on my lips at the age of 15. Now, mind you, I didn't say anything to anybody about that, because who he was, nobody would believe me. The incident that had previously happened, nothing had already been done. So therefore, it took me in like a spiral. I shut down. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't like for men to hug me, anything like family and all. I just never wanted to be really touched. I was very distant. I didn't say like I love you to people. Like as a child, everything was just taken away from me from the fact of already being in this ministry that was supposed to be there and not being able to do things that a child should be able to do, sports, after school activities, hanging with friends, none of that I couldn't really do.
Hmm. Wow, that's a deep situation. When you was attending this guy at church, what was the things he was like teaching and preaching about, and things like that? You know.
Leadership, leadership, leadership. Everything you do, leadership. So everything you wanted to go out of town, you had to talk to him about going out of town first. You wanted to be with your family, you ask him first. You ask him permission to do everything. This is from like even when I was a child, seeing other adults, including my mother, like ask, "Can I do this? Can I do that?" And not being able to do those things. And it didn't dawn on me until I gotten older the atmosphere that I was actually in, into all the situations like me putting pieces together. Like this is what's really happening. Adults couldn't speak out about certain things that were happening with them because they would be bashed over the pulpit. Just different things were just happening. Like he preached what he wanted to preach to use it how he needed to use it.
More so like manipulating the scriptures
Yes.
to have his way, as far as
Yes.
like having a controlling spirit, being like a dictator like Adolf Hitler and things like that. That
Correct.
type of person.
Yeah.
Oh, so when the story came out about him, what was going through your mind? Because when I was reading the story, it was other victims and things like that.
Correct.
You know.
So actually what's crazy is when the story came out, I was on my flight to basic training. So I didn't even know the story came out until I landed. And
Mm.
when I landed, I seen it and I was like, okay, I was actually shocked because it wasn't supposed to come out until I had completed my training. But since it had come out, I had to deal with me knowing, okay, I'm away for 2.5 months. I'm not able to talk to anybody about this situation, and I have to also deal with a lot of triggers from that situation while I'm here in basic training trying to get myself together. So it
Right.
was like finding that when the story came out and me having to go to a 10-week training, I didn't know how I would mentally process it all because it already, like the situation, the case had already taken such a long time to get started. So it's like I was trying to move forward with my life, and when that hit, it was like I felt like, okay, I can't move on with this, but I actually did it, and I actually became a sexual harassment advocate for the military.
Mm. So also read the story where as though I don't know if it's true or not because with these news articles, he was sentenced to only 5 years probation. Is that correct?
That is correct. 5 years probation, 15 years he has to register as a sex offender annually. He has a curfew, can't be around schools, parks. He has a lot of like stipulations, but at the end of the day, it still wasn't no justice.
Now, this is ironic because somebody sent me a text message about him about a week and a half ago, trying to justify him. You just mentioned something like the members or people who was for him. They sweep things underneath the rug, like as if he's innocent and things like that. Whereas though a person like him is not innocent, and he really deserves to be in prison. You know what I mean? For a long time. A lot of these so-called preachers, they get sentenced about 20, 30 years in prison, but it seemed like that's not even enough
Right.
because it just so happened they probably got caught that one time right there. You know what I mean? They probably been doing it for a long time, even before they got in the pulpit. You know what I mean? In general, because that can mess up a person's mind. Especially if they're young. You know what I mean? And they going through it for years and years. What advice would you give victims in general, not from him, but from all over the world? You know what I mean? Whoever been through a situation like that, or situations like that.
For me, through this whole experience, learning that there are people out there that do believe you. There are people that out there that do stand against things like this. You just have to trust that one person. And no matter if nobody believe you, you got to continue to tell your story. Continue, and that's exactly what I'm doing now. Because there are still people out there that's claiming he's innocent, yet he was charged. And it's just like it makes victims not want to speak out because nothing really was done. Like the mental, the emotional toll that it takes on victims, families, everything, that's a lot to process and that's a lot to go through. I have my rough days still, but yeah, I have a great support system now because I took that step forward in speaking out.
Mm. Is he still preaching in the pulpit? Because the person sent me, well, they was taking up for him and things like that, and they sent me a flyer of when he's having service and things like that. So I don't know if that was true or not. Is he still in the pulpit preaching?
He actually started.
Wow.
So it was like the day he got kicked out of the first church, 3 days later or so, he was already in a new building, new name, new church. So he's still preaching and everything right now.
Mm. And what is the name of that church?
It's Rema Word Ministries.
Rema Word Ministries. Wow, that's crazy. And people out there is still following and still listening to him. Correct.
Correct. They had a service coming up for the case, to just to show how manipulative he is of the word. His service that I don't know, you probably got that flyer or not. That's supposed to be coming up this month.
Yeah.
Like the God brought me out service or revival or whatever they supposed to be having. And you use that as if he really brought you out, but he really didn't bring you out because you still a registered sex offender. You still was charged. Like you were guilty of these things, yet you turned around and apologized in the courtroom for what you did.
Mm. Oh, you was in the courtroom as they was doing the whole situation.
Absolutely. I went and I read my victim impact statement, and then he got up and they told him, well, they didn't tell him just yet, but he said what he needed to say, and then he turned around and he tried to apologize. And it wasn't felt to me because it just wasn't. I wasn't really with it.
So did he seem sincere when he was apologizing, or he just did it basically just to get maybe a lighter sentence in front of the courtroom and whatnot?
In my opinion, that's what I think because knowing him and know how he operates, it was like I've heard that apology before over the pulpit. Like when he's messed up or said something wrong to somebody, I've heard the same way, same tone, everything. Like to me, it just felt scripted for him. Like he's used to it.
Hmm. Wow. So in total, how many victims was it calculated that they know of? You know what I mean?
So in total, that they know of, I believe it's three, and two cannot be found.
Wow.
Not saying like they're dead or anything. Don't get me wrong. I mean like they are unreachable because of this.
Oh, did you know the other victims, or just random?
No, I knew of two for sure. Well, I take that back. I knew of three for sure.
Hmm. That's crazy. So somebody asked a question. Well, it's not quite a question, but it's a saying, but it looks like the format of a question. It said, uh, wait, I guess they asked, did the pastor, I can't say the word on YouTube because they might flag me or something like that. The RAPE.
Yeah, I see it now. I put it. I got it on the side of me too. Um, I mean, I'm gonna just say it. It was molestation.
Okay. Somebody else, Tasha wrote a comment, said, there's no way I can go to any church when I hear a pastor being accused of sexual assault. I mean, I agree. Of course, the scriptures teach us forgiveness and whatnot, but it's certain things that, what I mean, disqualify, a person from preaching because they could have been doing it. And if you've been doing it and then you hop in the pulpit, you ain't qualified at all. So I don't understand why people like that stay in the pulpit knowing they should just sit down in general. They don't qualify for that type of position at all. Just sit down, what I mean,
Pride and power. Pride and power.
try to get yourself right in general because that's a wicked spirit. You know what I mean? And like I said earlier, it might be more victims out there that just don't want to speak up or afraid to speak up or afraid of like embarrassment and things like that. All right. We'll go to another comment. Um hmm. This person says he's disqualified as a pastor. What is he going to preach after what he did to these innocent people? They ask, not you, but just in general question, how can you even take your kids to that church? I guess they're talking about the people who
At
still
the
listen to
church.
them.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, me personally, listen to the person. Good, I think I don't know. You understand? If I hear about like a so-called preacher being accused, sentenced, or convicted of a crime like that, of course, of course, you got to have a forgiving heart for the whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
If he's sincere with his apologies in general, for sure. But I can't, me personally, I can't sit underneath somebody like that. I don't care if I'm close to them or anything. You know what I mean? So I don't understand why some of those people, and they probably listening, because I get messages from his members and stuff like that trying to justify something. I didn't even think it would get out like that when I
Mhm.
did the story on him. You know what I mean? How do you come across the video that I put out?
My uncle Curtis actually sent it to me. Sent me yours, and there was another person that also did a live video on YouTube about it. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but there were a couple people that actually shared the video. And when it got back to me, I was like, okay. And here it is with a whole, yeah, about a year later, I'm like, okay, now this is over with. I'm going to continue to tell my story, start my journey, continue to push forward and be successful. I'm going to have my hard days, but I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to start my podcast with every breath. Like, I'm pushing out, like, it is okay to speak out. I know it's hard, but you tell that one right person, you never know how many more people are behind that person listening and willing to hear and help you out and share your story.
Absolutely. Jeremy Dunbar, he ain't asked, but he just made a comment. Says, God bless you, sister. You're a strong woman. Thank you for sharing your story. Cool. Uh, Good, I think, says, sorry to hear this, Jacquelyne, but I pray this does not mess your relationship, I guess, up with God. Don't let this mess up your relationship with God, and don't give up on church. There are good churches out there. Got you. Tasha says, did did you go through any harassment from the congregation, and did any of the members believe you?
So half of the members that left, yes, they believed me. They stood beside me. They were at almost every court hearing, even when I weren't there. They stood in the stead for me. Um, Harassment, no, only from his family. That was basically it. Just the social media posts that they will post. Like if I post something encouraging my situation, it'll be a negative post or like demoting it saying, "Oh well, he was innocent, this, that," and it's like, okay, But as far as like the congregation, half of them left. Now I'm
Hmm.
not even gonna say half. The majority of them left. Maybe five, six people followed them.
Cool. All right, C Max. It says, Jacquelyne, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this horrific experience, exposing evil light. That would definitely help others. Latanya, she says, I feel this young lady shouldn't have to suffer through this. Cyree says, I don't have a question, just want to encourage her to continue to tell a story. Peace be unto you, sis. Um, Georgina Fleming says, was this incident at church or another location? And Jacquelyne, were you with him that day for prayer, counseling, etc.? And were you drugged?
No, I wasn't drugged, but what does he mean? Was this incident at church or it was at another location? Sorry, I was reading. It was at another location.
All right. Let me see. Sharon Henry says the devil is in the pulpit. I agree. There are a lot of people that's in the pulpit that's just trying to use the word of God for their wickedness, and a lot of people out there in general. I'm not saying you, Jacquelyne, in general, but like his family members, don't believe certain things like that can happen. But it can. But some people are just so hypnotized by so-called preachers like Leroy Lane. And you said a lot of these sexual harassment abuse going on in the so-called churches, but it is usually shoved under the carpet. Absolutely. All right. Sharon Henry says, "Be strong, young lady. God is able to help you through this for sure." And definitely, stay encouraged, in general, despite whatever whoever's taking up for him, his family members and whatnot. Like I said, I was wondering, how did I get a text message from from these people? You understand? I don't know, but a lot of people, who take up for guys like this, I don't understand. Is evidence presented? Is things like that? He apologized for his actions, so why would they still think that he's innocent? I don't get it.
I
So,
don't, I don't either.
why do you think people take up for so-called preachers like that, even despite knowing that is solid evidence on so-called preachers like that?
They stuck. They stuck in that old frame of mind of where they think that they can't outgrow where they are or see the truth for what it is. Or some could be scared of them taking the right side, that they'll lose a certain connection with others instead of just being, sticking up for what's right all around the board. And just because of who he is, the ties that he had, just around the city and whatnot. But other than that, I can't tell you why people even still think about that man.
Mm. All right. We got a question. Nicole Martin says, "I hope this is not too personal to ask Tony, but is she married or has a desire to marry because of that situation?"
I'm not married. I had a desire, and honestly speaking, that's real touchy right now. It's more so like it's hard for me to open up because then I have to explain to the person that I'm with why I'm this way, why I'm that way. And I have to learn, or I have to get to that point of complete healing to where I'm able to do that again.
Hmm, got you. Georgina Fleming asks, I guess you answered that. He says, "Have kids, and if so, how does her kid's spouse feel?" She's not married, about this, and are you going for therapy?
So I went through therapy, and therapy did help a lot. Therapy did help a lot. I definitely recommend everyone who's going through mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever therapy you need, definitely seek it. It does help. It does.
So, being that the situation like this happened, how do you feel about churches in general, church in general?
Church in general is just like okay, I grew up in church, so I'm not gonna lie. Like all I know is church. Now, I'm gonna do my own thing and all that. But like going to a church now, I'd be like, nah. And most of my family, they all church. And if I want to see them, I'm gonna go towards the end. So I'm gonna have to sit through or hear a lot of stuff. You like now I know like I'm hearing stuff and then it's like, yeah, that's not really how they are or who they are. So it's hard to trust somebody else coming across the pulpit.
Mm. Did he ever try to reach out to you after the whole situation happened?
No,
Okay.
he didn't. He tried to reach out once I was getting ready to go public. He begged me not to, and he said that if I did, that he was going to try to commit suicide.
Wow. Well, listen, if he listening, brother, you know, you brought this on yourself. You understand? You were supposed to be a preacher and whatnot. A preacher don't act like that. You know what I mean? You ain't a preacher, number one. So if you think that you're going to commit suicide because somebody brought it to the public, think, hey, so be it. You brought that on yourself. You failed yourself. It's like when you're in class, the teacher don't fail you. You know what I'm saying? The student fail themselves in general. So I guess he feel embarrassed or whatever the case may be and things like that. But hey, me personally, I don't care. As long as the man get himself right, like really right with God and stuff like that, and step out the pulpit in general, it's all good. All right. Sister David says, didn't catch the story from the beginning. But sorry that you had to go through that ordeal. Have any other women come forward, or did any confide in you to say they were victimized?
No, I pretty much was close to the other victims, and I do hate that their story is not told, or they're afraid to tell their story. And I wish that the other victims that haven't said anything and are afraid to say something, I wish that they would. It will help more people. It will help everybody within the whole situation, because there's closure, but not really closure about everything that has happened.
Cool. All right, Cali boy. He said this is so powerful. I thank God for you, my sisters, and stay strong in the fight of exposing these creeps. I love you. Good I think says don't allow the devil to use this trauma to push you away from God, because that's the devil's aim with all this. But God loves you, sis. He is there for the brokenhearted and mistreated. Sharon Henry says, yes, be encouraged. There will always be followers of evildoers, but their day will come. All right.
Hmm.
C Mac says, I don't understand taking side with someone like that either. Makes zero sense other than being evil. Nicole Levels, you said some people don't want to believe their family members are wicked or someone they care about, but people sometimes get deceived. Sorry, sis, you had to go through that. You're right about that. You know, a lot of people get deceived. Or they don't see no wrong that their family member or who they close to can do. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Hmm.
All right, Tasha, you asked a good question. He says, can you file a lawsuit against him for pain and suffering?
You know what? That's not the first time I've had that question asked. Um, I haven't thought about it any more than the first couple times it was asked, but I was told that I could do that.
Hmm. Jeremy Dunbar says, I believe the devil has blinded the eyes of those people who still believe him. I agree. You know what I mean? Or some of them may be doing it themselves. Check that out. You said he is blind as well. If the blind lead the blind, they both fall into the ditch for sure. Ryan Sutton says time heals all wounds. Love you, twin. Tyrone Giles says, thank you, beautiful, for being strong. This is not only happening to our ladies, it happens to our young men as well. You're right. Remember Huey Long, he paid people off. Wow. That's crazy right there. Bob T says, I wish I could give the pastor a revelation. A man without God is acceptable to anything. Uh. Cyrese says she should follow apostle, climb aboard the Truth of God train. Have you ever heard of Pastor Geno Jennings?
No, I haven't.
Gotcha. Jeremy Dunbar says a real man of God protects the flock. Okay, I ain't gonna read that one. Latayan says that pastor family didn't want to believe the truth because they are delusional. Right
That
about
very true.
right about that one. Georgina Fleming says, "Did you scream, fight back, or do you have blaming questions?"
I definitely have blaming questions. Now that everything is over, I feel like since there wasn't much justice done, I do feel like at times I do have my moments where I go, well, what was the point? Who have I helped? Like, or why did I? Because now I feel like I put more on me. Like when I spoke out, my weight got lighter. But then as everything proceeded to go on, it felt like I was just getting heavier and heavier and heavier, because it was like you hear the negative side of everything, then you got a limited few that are supporting you. And it's like you just have this war that you're fighting back and forth. So it's like, what was the point? But then like some days I know this is why I did what I did. This is why I spoke up.
Cool. That's what's up. Sister David says, "I want to commend your courage and for bringing awareness to the public. Although There are some good churches out there. Flip side is that a lot of horrible churches pastured by demons in disguise. I agree. Georgina Fleming says, "Do you feel comfortable with being in a room by yourself with a man?"
Um, it really depends. Like sometimes, like I gotta feel it out. Like it'll take me a minute. I'll stand back. I'm more so watching my guard.
Hmm. Good, I think says also Jacquelyne. One thing the devil does is make you think you are responsible for it. Don't believe it. You are not. Remember, Jesus loves you.
Absolutely.
Have you felt like that at one time,
Like it was like I was responsible.
or did somebody mention that those who was trying to take up for him?
Oh, absolutely. They did everything they could. They said everything they could to make it seem like it was my fault.
Hmm. Sister Davis says, has a lot of women left the congregation as a result of your experience, or are they still supporting him?
You have a few. Actually, that's all that followed him was women. That's all that went with him to the new church was the few women that was there.
Wow. C Mac, you said disgusting how she's suffering through while he's probably eating donuts and looking for his next victim. Well, do you
Yep.
think he still have the residue to possibly do that again?
Absolutely,
Mm,
I
wow.
do. I
Wow.
definitely do, and that's what makes me. I think that's what hunts me more, knowing that this can and probably will happen again. And the
Mm,
next victim may not be able to speak out. The next victim may just commit suicide just because it's too much. You don't know. Like that intimidation, the power, that stronghold is like, what for? Why say something? Nobody's gonna believe me. Look at all the other victims that said something. Nothing happened.
mm. All right. Ordinance Pebbles says one thing about that so-called pastor is going to pay because God knows what he did. Praying for your healing, sis.
Appreciate it.
Sister Davis says this may be a little premature to advise you on trusting another leader, but if I could, I would like to recommend FCOOLJC, which is First Church of Our Lord Jesus Christ, Apostle Geno Jennings, and Sister Davis says, I know you will not be disappointed. Cool.
Appreciate it.
Um, Georgina Fleming says, it's hard seeing fellow members openly rallying behind an accused church leader. Yes, God forgives sin, but the fact he went back to the church 3 days after being released says he isn't remorseful. Wow, I didn't know that. You know what I mean? I didn't know the 5 months probation and things like that. I normally see stories when pastors get convicted and sentenced, they get like 15 years, 20 years in prison and things like that. So that was a crazy situation on whoever was the judge and things like that in that matter.
I
Yeah.
mean that too, but his wife works at the courthouse. They know the judges. Another lady that was, wrapped up in the accusations as well. She
Hmm.
works at the courthouse as well. They know the judges, so it's like he had the connections within the courthouse.
Wow. Let me see. So a question. Bob T says, how is your walk with God? He said also, I feel like she's not right in that department. I feel anger, I feel hurt, I feel a lot of things that's deep in her heart that she haven't let go yet. I guess that one is for you.
Absolutely, very true. But it's not something you just let go overnight. Time heals all wounds. My walk with God is a work in progress. You know what I'm saying? I do love God. I do, I sing and all that and everything, but at this moment, far as going to a building,
Yeah.
I see it.
Did anybody from that congregation try to counsel you, give you some type of encouragement and things like that, versus trying to take up on them?
Absolutely. You have Curtis Sherrod, Courtney Sherrod, um, my family members that were there. They literally stood by me this entire time, 10 toes down. They did not, they definitely, they believed it because some of their family members were becoming victims. They were being groomed. So they knew the story, they knew the lineup, they knew the step by step process of what he was doing, how he was doing it. So they never one time doubted me. They stood 10 toes down. They helped throughout this whole process of the case and everything. So those are the ones that actually left. They're no longer with him.
Mm. Jeremy Dunbar says, that sounds like he got a favor done. If that judge turned a blind eye, he is of his father the devil. That's why the system can be crooked. For sure.
Absolutely.
Levels. Nicole Levels says we need to support her and show her that there are people out here who care about her. Church, etc., will come later. Pebble says, see that pastor was doing so-called pastor was doing the devil work to steal, kill, and destroy, and he's taking that so-called pastor down to the pits of hell. Show. All right. Sister David says, I don't understand why he was just given 5 months probation. 5 years. 5 years. That's how guilty can he says that's sad how guilty can manipulate the system. I don't know how he sleeps at night. Is he married? Is his wife supporting him anyway?
He's definitely married. She's still supporting him.
Mm. Does she so-called preach too?
She's supposed to be a missionary. Yes, sir.
All right. Let me see. Good I think said it's not time. You said it's not time that heals all wounds, but God's presence is what's the healer. Very crucial. What I'm saying. Nah, I mean, nah. You don't got to answer that. You kind of getting kind of like a little.
They deep. They too.
You kind of get a little righteous on that one. You gotta thumb it down on this one. You understand? Thumb it down. All right. Tyrone Gill says, Brother Tony, I truly thank God for placing you in your position. Going back a day or two talking about how you are protecting your children. I am the same way. Oh yeah, we had a little live. We do live conversations, and I talk about stuff like that about protecting, children and whatnot. Because of these creeps out here. Not only the so-called preachers, but people in general who tend to try to manipulate the situation and try to lure kids in for their sexual desires. And a guy like him, listen, if you was if you was my daughter, I'm sorry, I'd be in prison probably. You understand? I would be in prison because I don't tolerate stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even when a person texted me last week trying to take off on him, it was like, I gotta remain calm and professional and stuff like that because I might say something. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure there's people probably gonna catch this video and whatnot and things like that. You know what I mean? A lot of people when they hear stories like this, they want to put hands on you. You understand?
I
So
definitely understand.
you know what I mean? All right, Kim says, I think you answered this question already, but you probably came in late. Said, does he have to register as a sex offender?
Yes, for 15 years.
Hmm. So I understand that if he has to register as a sex offender, he can't be around like kids and whatnot, right?
Correct. Nobody under the age of 17 without a guardian.
Okay. Level says some of y'all too religious and churchy. It's ridiculous. Learn to talk to people without a sermon. Obviously, that person not filled use wisdom. Yeah, that's true. I kind of figured it was kind of going to be that way with certain people ask
Hmm.
too religious questions. They got to understand. Listen, we're just having a conversation. That's it. You understand? Relax. So you're right about that one at levels. Finally, aware of you says, God bless you for speaking out. You are right. Many of us who have been assaulted as children don't speak up out of fear.
Absolutely.
Sister Davis says, be encouraged, sister. God loves you. Thank Tony for doing interviews and thank you for agreeing to share your story with us. So brave. For sure, for sure. Nicole Mars says, with a hurt person, sometimes you have to talk reality and not always spiritual. You're
That
right.
that is, I definitely agree.
Listen. A lot of
Run
people
somebody away like that.
they be trying to shove Bible. They be trying to shove Bible to people all the time, but that don't work at the end of the day. All right. Cali Boy says, as a father, I can only imagine what your father is going through. If possible, what are some of the signs that you can share, just so I can say stay on the lookout?
So is he asking like what kind of signs from the victims or
Let me reread that. Cali Boy, what are you talking about, Cali Boy? Let us know. All right, we'll reread that. Wow, you said, as a father, I can only imagine what your father's going through. If possible, what are some of the signs that you can share, just so I can stay on the lookout? Oh, you talking about you said the victims or the so-called preacher?
right? I'm gonna assume he's saying like far as like the victim, like what are the signs? So if you have children or females, if their regular routine or their attitudes and how they usually are change drastically, they become distant, they become shut down. Another signs are if their kids or even still younger women, signs of suicide attempts, cutting of the wrist. Like you just have to, when you know your child, you know when something's off. Even if you think nothing's off, just take that extra step in asking and making sure that everything is okay.
Cool, cool. Um, Sister David says, does he have daughters under the age of 17 years of age?
He no, he does not. They all are grown.
Bob T says, trust me, Jesus Christ loves you. Don't let nobody take that away from you. God bless. MHW, what's up, MHW? Says, want to encourage her to fall in love with fighting back as she's doing, and let God be on her couch, guaranteed to get through this. That's what's up.
Absolutely.
Sheila Davis says, stay strong, sister. God will deal with your enemies. I too recommend that you listen to Pastor Geno Jennings. His teaching really opened up my eyes to what's going on in this wicked world. Um, Georgina Fleming says, was Jacqueline's experience before or after the other two victims?
I can't tell you if it was before or after. Everything could have been around the same time frame. I
Gotcha.
just know I spoke up and then the others spoke up. So I don't know.
Cool. So, if you got any closing remarks, any conclusions to this whole situation, and after you give your closing remarks, please let the people know about your podcast and where they can find you, as far as like a social media or email.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time out to do this interview. Thank you so much. It means a lot. It's going to help for anybody that was listening, who's going to listen. I appreciate the encouraging words. They do go a long way. I may not know you, but they go a long way to know that there are people outside of who you know that will support you and push you along and also give you great advice and help you along in your healing journey. Um, as stated, I am working on a podcast. Give me a few months. I'm getting everything situated and set up for it, and the name of it will be "With Every Breath." Um, and that's just going to be the start of it. I do plan on continuing this and try to see where it takes me, get my story out there, and see how many people I can help, and just become more successful within what I'm doing right now within the army, and then outside of my civilian life as well.
I sure appreciate that. You know what I mean? Thank you for coming on this interview, sharing your story, and thank for everybody in the chat room giving off encouragement for sure. And anytime you want to come on here, share your podcast and things like that. Any ideas, any information you need about YouTube and other video sharing platforms, I'll give you advice anytime, any day. Appreciate you for coming on.
No
Thank you.
problem. Thank you.
God bless. So that was Jacquelyne Prather with her interview and things like that. a so-called pastor that I did a story on last year, 2002. His name was Leroy Lane, and she reached out and wanted to do an interview and share her story. There's a couple of other victims, not with him, but with other so-called preachers that I exposed. They want to share their story and things like that. If anybody got a story on a so-called preacher, doing stuff like this, please let me know. Maybe you want to share your story. And to the person who came on here earlier, who I deleted their message to a troll, listen, we don't got time for that. We're dealing with real things like this. You know what I mean? It's no time to go back and forth in general. We deal with something real. You know what I mean? Talk about something real to encourage the people, to put people on notice about creeps like that, for sure. I thank everybody for tuning in, into this interview. And God bless to everybody out there. I'm Tony Harvin. I'm signing off. May you all have a blessed day. I might come back on the live at 10:30. I don't know. I might come back. We could have a little conversation about other things in general. So just bear with me. We'll see though. God bless if I don't come back on. All right. May you all have a wonderful night. All right. Peace. Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is Tony Harvin, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Do remember, if you'd like to subscribe to this channel, hit that subscribe button and also hit the notification bell right here and select all to receive all notifications upon the videos that come out on this channel. Also, my backup channel is Tony Harvin Network if you'd like to do the same.